What's up, guys? It's Ricky Cecchini. I'm the VP of Product at CloudRadial. With any hope you kind of know that, because hopefully you are a customer and not just like, why did I stumble in on this webinar? With me is Crystal Wooten, and she is our marketing coordinator. She's going to help answer some questions. So if you want to make her life easier, I would say Q&A is better. But
Anyone who want to ask your question, please feel free.
anytime. We keep this pretty loose. Let me show you guys what we're talking about this Tips and Tricks Thursday, which is really driven by you, but I always take the liberty for a little bit. So if this is your first one, welcome. Hey, glad to have you. If it's not your first one, welcome back. And fairly simple thing, Tips and Tricks Thursdays were designed literally just to be able to answer questions where you don't have to get on with a support person. You're not quite having a problem. You just want some best practices. You want to know how to use the tool you're paying for, and you want to make sure specifically whether it's CSA, the big flagship CloudRadial portal product, or Portal 365, the more lightweight one. What are we talking about here? How can we get the maximum value out of it? So definitely a place to ask about specific processes, definitely a place to ask about use cases and best practices. Just because I can't stop everything I'm doing and show your tenant and talk about your stuff doesn't mean we can't get to your stuff. If you have specific things that you take away from this going like, I wish somebody would help me out, reach out to your account manager. I'll show that on the next slide, and then we'll get something set up and or support. And then this is a good place to get, again, those best practices. Not a great place to get updates on what CloudRadial does or integrations or feature requests, just because obviously I'm specifically saying this is what it can do today. Here's what it is. Between me and you, I'm whispering to a webinar, between me and you guys, I still talk about that stuff. It's just, it has to be kind of relevant because I'll get sidetracked very, very quickly. So again, there's not really too much of a format to the types of questions you can ask as long as it's related to CSA and Portal 365. Again, those one-on-ones, we do get to those. Crystal's going to do her best to try to answer those in the chat as we go along. I'll leave a couple of pauses here and there to make sure we answer the relevant ones as I go through some of my stuff. And then again, there'll be time at the end to ask questions about anything, completely unrelated to anything I've shown, some stuff you've been wondering, anything at all. Again, success@cloudradial.com is your fast path to your account manager. And if you know them, you can email them directly. If you don't, you can find that out and they'll get a message and reach back out to you. So what are we talking about today? What was the subject? Well, we did a poll a while back and we picked, this is our fourth month of doing tips and tricks. We've done how to onboard clients. We've done policies. We've done something else. I already forgot the other one. But the one that came up as the runner-up to all those was how to use the LMS, the built-in training system. And we're going to specifically focus on how to actually build the training. And like I told the AM crowd, this is not a session where I'm going to patronize you and be like, click add and then click this. I want to talk about what it's actually like to be down in the depths, in the dirt, doing these courses, and talk about the real things that I've talked to partners about, the things I have to do as a software vendor, all kinds of stuff, kind of really behind the curtain type thinking when it comes to this creation of custom training. Again, obviously best practices, tracking how to display that value to clients, and actually making sure that training is something you even want to invest in. If you've been using it, you want to learn it better, or if you've never used it and you want to know exactly how to frame it, this is a good session. And then also how it ties into the greater picture and how it can kind of fit into your strategy with your CloudRadial CSA Portal 365 portal. So that's the gist. The specifics, I'm going to talk about where to build it, how to source training material, how to target, and again, specifically reports, dashboards, visualizations of the training data. So if you've seen this before, I hate PowerPoints. I don't stick to them. I make jokes. I don't read them. So it's more of a workshop, really. Terrible on me for calling this a webinar. But let's start with that. And again, last time I did this in the morning, I probably went 40 minutes, which leaves about 20 for questions. I'll try to go a little bit more succinct. Again, if you have questions about this, let's go. So first things first, right? Let's get some training stuff out of the way. If you've never seen or you've never used CloudRadial's training, the training is located under University on the left-hand side under Courses. It's something that is universally available to everybody in CloudRadial, regardless of version. And we wanted to make sure that's a thing because we believe that training is a really, really good piece of portal tech that can get people using your portal. And obviously, like most of the time when you come to CloudRadial, right, MSPs traditionally look for something that facilitates like the service desk. So usually they enter CloudRadial looking for something like a form tool, onboard, offboard forms, all that stuff, or even QBRs. training fits in this kind of weird space that you say it's useful, but most people use it as an accelerator or another reason to get in the portal and keep people going with like stickiness, right? It's a reason for the client to get in the portal. So the more you invest in it, the better it is. We'll talk about, is it realistic to invest in it? What can you do? And all that as well. We'll talk about the meta strategy. But for the most part, when you go over here in your CloudRadial tenant, you should see some courses because we don't leave you hanging you out to dry, right? We have some stuff in there that is already pre-built. Now, it's all over the map. Some of the stuff in here is built by us when we first created the content in the portal. Some of the stuff is created by third-party training providers. So again, if you don't know, we work with a company called Bigger Brains and we work with a company called ClipTraining. Those two provide courses directly in our system. And then there's also a couple of vendors that we've worked with in the past, like Smileback, or in this case, Help Desk Habits is Mark Copeman. He used to do, I can't remember, I think it was Customer Thermometer, but now he works as a marketing agency. But either way, they provide content to us because it's just stuff that's generally useful and welcome. And obviously you can customize it so you can cut this down to only the content that matters to your people. But when we look at training as a strategy, I want to talk about what it actually takes to use this LMS start to finish. So let's start by just the simple course creation. Now, most people, when they create courses in CloudRadial, they're going to be doing this, chances are, at scale. So they want to create a course that is applicable to probably most of their clients or a large subset of their clients. So if you're familiar with CloudRadial and you've used it more than a week or two, you probably are aware that there's a thing called content. And if you're not, let me tell you, content is the way you create stuff at scale. So there is a course content package where you can create these courses and disseminate them to your customers at scale. For the sake of the webinar, because I don't want to have to wait for publishing to finish and blah, 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 and check all the changes, we're not going to do it through content. We're going to build it directly within university courses in a specific company. And that's going to basically be the equivalent of making a one-off course for people, more or less the same stuff. So let's get started. When we build a course, what are we doing? Well, first of all, we're hitting add at the top. And again, like I promised, I'm not going to be patronizing you guys, showing you how to click next and add and fill out a category. I want to show you how to approach course creation, because the fundamental problem that I've talked about with MSPs is that it's a nice to have. Usually the value is pretty inherent, but the time to build these courses and be thoughtful with them hasn't really been there. The good news is with AI, it's gotten a lot easier, and I'll show you how you can use that in a productive, non-hacky way. And that's it. So in our theoretical example, it worked pretty well for the AM group. I'll do it for you guys too. I want to build a general security course, something that's pretty easy, something that I can start to run my people through that I think adds value. For the sake of argument, wink, as if, let's say I know nothing about technology. Wouldn't that be crazy? So what do we do? How do we actually fill out the stuff and know where to begin? Well, I really believe that AI here is your friend. So what we're going to do is I'm not even going to use ChatGPT or Anthropic or any of the named AIs. I'm just going to use good old-fashioned Microsoft Copilot. So what are we going to do? We're going to add a brand new document over here. And I'm going to do this live on the call. And it has this neat little feature. You don't have to have the plugin or whatever, but you can access any AI that you want. And then I'm going to give it a nice little prompt here, just like this. We're going to do, I am an IT provider, IT service provider. I want a category. I want a name and a description. I'm building a general security awareness training course targeted towards end users. Okay. 3 to 5 lessons, so that way I can break it up into chunks with descriptions on what those lessons cover. And then I want to start with a password security lesson. So I'm very specific with my prompt, but this should give me pretty much everything I need to fill out this course and start to make it workable. So let's do that. Let's hit next. Let's wait for our AI. Again, I use AI as a very general term. Any AI will work, or you can write it yourself, of course, if you know exactly what you're talking about. So without thinking too much, okay, we're going to copy the category. Cybersecurity, that sounds good. What else do we have? We have our course name is Comprehensive Security Awareness Training. Sure, why not? Now, this is where I'm going to start to explain how everything works so you know exactly how training works. The tags, really what those end up doing, and we're going to open a side-by-side window, or at least back and forth so we can see it without me having to lay a bunch of windows on top of each other, start to matter, the tags start to matter whenever we start to categorize stuff, because even in our own demonstration, even in this webinar, you can see that I have a lot of courses here, right? I have a lot of stuff that's available, and we got to start thinking by the end user perspective too. This is a lot. This is not even close to all the ones that I have. If I hit the all, like all categories here, you can see that my actual training is a lot, right? If you get both clip training and bigger brains, you're gonna have more courses than you know what to do with, which sounds like a good idea, but can quickly become an overwhelming experience. So the name of the game is to figure out exactly the type of training you want to provide. Again, whether we're going to build it or I'll show this stuff and you want to source it from third parties, it's up to you. And then also like tags and stuff just help you work like courses together. But that's fine. We'll come back to this because I want to talk about the application of courses as a whole. So we're going to stick to lessons, but I will explain external and clip training as well. And then we're going to go back to our description. So fairly generic, I'm sure, designed to educate end users on fundamentals, blah, blah, blah. Your AI covers the basics of it. Paste it from Word. We're going to clean up the formatting. Looks cool. Now, for the sake of the webinar, because again, I'm not going to patronize you guys showing you how to put an image in, you can make this look a lot nicer, but obviously I'm going to zip through it. This editor is pretty good. I mean, you can really kind of go about it any way you want to. People have embedded videos even in the description of the course. There's even an HTML or like a code view. So if you're more inclined, you want to customize it, make it look really fancy, you can. Or if you just want to type in something like this, that's cool too. The options at the bottom, we're going to explore. This is more to do with how you show the value of courses and how you present them rather than just like they're mandatories. So partner managed isn't really relevant. It's just saying like, who can edit this? The stuff that we want to focus on is exam passing score months before certification expires. So as we'll see, even before you set up a course, like we're doing one on generic cybersecurity. Do I want to put an exam on it? Maybe, right? A lot of times MSPs like to do exams just to prove that people are actually reading it and not just mashing the next button and just completing a course in 2 seconds. If that matters to you, awesome. Edit the score, and we'll talk about how that applies when we start adding quiz questions to it. If it doesn't matter, you can ignore this. And the months before certification expires means that CloudRadial courses are actually purpose-built, designed to expire when someone starts to take them, because the logic that most MSPs apply is that whatever course you take, it's probably going to be outdated in 12 months, 6 months, 5 months, who knows? You can think of that like, if you take a course on how to use Office, Office changes every year. If you take a course on security, security changes every year, maybe faster, once a quarter, once a whatever. So you can just stick a whole 9999 and basically make that course. You complete it once, you're good forever. But having this starts to have some kind of interesting ramifications for like policy. So you start to remind your clients that like it's not a one-time thing. Crystal can't take a course on phishing once in 2016 and go, I'm good because things change. Neither can I, right? So we'll look at how that all applies. So this will make sense retroactively, but for right now, we're not too worried about them. Requirements. Do you want to make a course required and do you want to show a course on the initial courses page? The only thing that requirement is going to do is it's going to flag it as one of these things at the top, right? So we have completed, in progress, required, and we can kind of see at a quick glance and use these as filters. And then the other thing that it's going to be able to do is by doing the initial course page, that's these recommended. So basically, is it one of the top ones that are pinned? Use it sparingly because if everything is pinned, then nothing is pinned, right? Then there's no close up of the view. So for the most part, these are just basic settings. Here's the real thing. If you take anything away from this, especially when it comes to training, here's the stuff that actually people suffer from. It's not the settings. It's not how to click stuff. When we have this, right? I'm doing this live on a call with you. I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. I copy pasted my prompt from before. Where am I going to get this content? I genuinely don't know how to produce a video on phishing or whatever. A, not on the fly, and B, in general, to be comprehensive. So what do? MSPs, a lot of them find themselves in that position too. So let's go over to lessons. Or let's say our overview is totally fine. We got to actually have these lessons because lessons are how people take the courses. And before we do it, I'll show you an example of one that works that is existing. So let's take the Help Desk Habits course. You can see that this is that first description page. Now, in this one's case, it's got an actual H2 header, it's got text, it's got a video embedded in the middle that works just fine, so on and so forth, right? And then you've actually got the lessons. And when you launch into a lesson, you've got all the mini stuff that you can embed videos, have sidebar information, put text, you name it. So it can be pretty interesting. But like I said, when I go to my lessons tab and I'm okay with my description, let's build that lesson. What am I going to put in here, right? So the title for this one, we talked about how our co-pilot recommended that password security was the first one because I asked it to. The importance of creating strong passwords, blah, blah, blah. Sure, let's put that as the overview so people know what they're getting into. And we'll call this lesson 1 passwords, right? Lesson 1. Geez, I learned how to type yesterday. Passwords. There we go. What am I going to put for the lesson? Again, the good news is AI has made a lot of this stuff really easy as far as you can drop a lot of text-based knowledge, even diagrams and stuff, pretty easily. I mean, again, ChatGPT, any Claude from Anthropic, whatever you use, it can go in and generate a lot of cool stuff, but a lot of engagement comes from videos. So I wanted to share this because this is what we do. This is what a lot of people do. There's a weird gray line, and I know that a lot of MSPs, not even MSPs, people tend to go and find whatever video on YouTube or whatever that seems pretty good and stick it in there. I'm not your lawyer. I can't tell you whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I can tell you you could potentially get in trouble if whomever's video you're putting in there finds out you've got an embedded video, and especially if you're charging people to take that training. So regular Ricky, who does not work for CloudRadial, says you're probably fine, especially if you're not monetizing on that stuff. But legally safe Ricky says you got to find stuff that kind of is okay for usage. So how do you go about that? Well, I use YouTube. It's a pretty good example. So let's say I'm trying to find some content to stick inside of my training course on passwords. We all know there's a billion password videos out there. So if again, I copied this from earlier, I'll just go how to make a strong password. What's going to pull up? A lot of different stuff, right? Okay, cool. We've got a bunch of different videos locked and loaded in here. 1.1 million views on how to create a password from Best Buy, from Learn Online Club, various quality, various types. Okay. When you start blind firing stuff looking for content, you run into a couple risks. And this is why people shy away from building training. The value is there, but then you get into like, okay, well, how am I going to find the right appropriate training? Best Buy is obviously going to have a call to action saying go buy stuff from Best Buy. Not the best move for a lot of people. So the safest way I've found is when you search for something, especially on YouTube, they do make it pretty easy. Just hit your filters. And what you're looking for specifically is Creative Commons. Creative Commons are basically like free to use, educational, blah, blah, blah. They still could obviously have a logo and a call to action stuff in there because someone else is making the content. But at least these won't get you in any kind of trouble because they are literally marked as free use, right? So in this case, I'll take this one. This is one of the top ones. It looks pretty good. Yes, it's from a publication, but at the very least, it's got some pretty good generic advice, and it would fit pretty well for me. So there we go. I'm not having to go create a custom video. I'm not being, disingenuous by saying I made this. I'm literally saying I am aggregating this training stuff. So we're going to go ahead and just copy the URL, go back to our course. And again, I could add text and whatnot in here. I'm just going to insert video as is, stick it in there and call it a day. Cool. If I want, I can do more sidebar stuff. Sidebar stuff goes here. We had questions this morning going like, well, what if I want to host my own stuff, right? If you do produce your own stuff, maybe you're a big enough MSP that you have people producing helpful content, quick videos, whatever have you, you can totally do that. I will put the caveat out there that CloudRadial is not good. In fact, it doesn't do it at storing those videos. So you do have to host those somewhere else and we'll display them. But there is no actual spot in CloudRadial to host videos because that would slow down our tenants dramatically because we're not built for storage. So before anybody gets a cheeky idea to go upload a 30-minute 4K video, you can't. People have tried. It doesn't work. So that's why I say embed or figure out how to link it or pull it in from somewhere. Most common, again, YouTube, super common. Vimeo is really good because YouTube has this annoying thing. I think you can turn it off, but where it does the next recommended video, and a lot of times that can pop up as irrelevant depending if you're logged in and stuff. But for the most part, the big takeaway here is actually finding content that's fair and free and good to use is possible. You just have to be able to know how to look for it, which is hopefully what you took away from that. So really, that's fundamentally all there is to this. I mean, if we want to keep going, the gist would be add another lesson. What did my AI course tell me to talk about? Phishing awareness, you name it, and just keep going and going. So that's not too hard to do. The value that you can also add on top of it is, again, exam, because you start to look at not just how to do it, what's the point? Why offer training? Well, again, if you offer training of value, security is often talked about, not because it's just a hot buzz, word. It's something that is typically a shared responsibility between a client and an MSP. So a security thing isn't just good because it's useful. It's good because typically your point of contact at that company will want their users trained on security. It's kind of a necessary evil, if you will. And again, you really don't want, if it does matter, you don't want people mashing next. So do you need courses and quizzes? Not necessarily, but a lot of times it helps. And if you want to put quiz questions on these lessons, every single one of these has an exam at the top. So it knows contextually what you're quizzing them on. So I'll delete this secondary lesson. Let's go ahead and add an exam one. What can you do with CloudRadial's exam system? It's really simple. Like, I'm not going to pretend this is some super advanced thing. I believe even if you look online, we talk about how we have a built-in LMS, but we try to throw in the word lightweight in there to set proper expectations. This thing is not going to be able to do like a bunch of multi-questions. It's not going to be able to go above and beyond and do SCORM content. Like right now, it's super simple. I'll talk about the future of it towards the end of this webinar because I think it'll be a little bit more interesting for those more technically savvy. But for the most part, what we're looking at here is we're looking at, a nice simple question set. So with your answer options, you really only got the possibility of doing true, false, or multiple choice, but pick one, right? Not pick multiple. So in this case, let's do a multiple choice one. We're going to say which is the right answer. Okay, and then we're going to add some answers. We're going to do 1, we're going to do 2, and heck, we'll even do 3. And 3 will be our correct answer. Cool. So now what? You can see it's kind of, I should have done a longer phrase, but that's in green to denote that it's correct. And I can keep going and going and going. So overall, there's not much to building courses, and that's why I don't hammer this down super, super hard for people, because I think it's pretty intuitive what to do with it. Something that comes up very often as well, that came up this morning, is how do you target these courses? So we built the overview, we've done a lesson on passwords. The next thing that you can do this in the content package, you can do this at the company level, is to set the audience. If you don't even know what I'm talking about and you just want to make stuff, don't worry about it, because by default, hitting this groups thing will show you that CloudRadial is going to publish this course to everyone. So a security course goes to everyone. That's probably fine. If you want, you can swap this out, right? Maybe I don't want it going to everyone. Maybe I want it to go into only administrators. Everyone on this call and every call ever has those two triggers, those two groups. If you want to get more specific and I want to start getting fancy and I want to start saying, I want to make a course for my HR people. I want to make a course for my product people or my test group, whatever have you. This comes down to user groups, custom user groups, which we can talk about if we want to. If not, no big deal, because it doesn't really matter for the training bit. It's just talking about the potential of it. So let's say I'm cool with this. I also skipped adding an image, but adding an image would give you a nice course tile, just like we saw back here. But we're cool with this for right now. So let's see what the experience and the expected behavior is of a course like this. So I've got it here. Again, I've missed the image. Cybersecurity is the category, comprehensive security training. Now the user can go through, and I'm actually going to do this as myself, as a real user. So pardon me a second while I open up my own user. Here we go. So Ricky, the user, comes in. He goes to the courses. He wants to take security training. He clicks it. He can read the description. Again, you saw my more high effort one for like help desk habits. And then when I'm good to go, I just enroll in it. And then I take my lessons. Lesson tells me exactly what it's about. I click it. I can start playing it. That's totally cool. Nice. Sidebar stuff goes here. You're off to the races. To prevent the nextification and making sure people actually absorb the information, I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to get hit with the exam. What's the right answer? 2. Nope. And I dictated a mandatory passing score, right? So depending on how many questions and whatnot I have for each lesson, that passing score is going to get to dictate whether they have to go back and restart the lesson or they get to move forward. So that's where you start to play with the math of just like how many questions, what's the passing thing, up to you, right? Or you can, if you ignore and you don't put any quizzes at all, it'll just go right through. There's no passing, there's no whatever. You could put 70%, 60%, it won't matter. There's no questions. The scoring logic doesn't get triggered at all. So I'm going to click redo. It's going to take me back. All right, fine. Actually, it was 3 after all. Hey, that's good. You did it. Right on. When we go to next, what it's going to do is it's going to go, congratulations, you completed it. And we can even get a certificate. And this is nice because it makes the user feel like they accomplished something. Because yes, it's kind of a joke that I did a one question, one video quiz. But it's really pretty simple psychology that a lot of people want to feel like they got something. So rather than just having it close and going, yep, you did it, a lot of times people like to feel that thing. So this is super simple. It happens for every course. It's just a very simple certificate saying your company, certificate of achievement to your name for the course and the date. Pretty easy, pretty nice. And then when I close that course, what should happen is I should see that it says it's completed. Hey, cool. I've got more completed courses in line. So that's not too bad, right? The biggest pain is going to be finding content. And I will expand to say that's where you can start to get creative. Again, CloudRadial is never going to claim or want to be the end all be all of every solution ever. LMS is the same thing. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you don't have time to build courses. What? Everyone has time to build courses. You don't? Embarrassing. No, everyone doesn't have time to build courses. So when we go to build one, the alternative option you can do is just link off to an external URL. I'll show you what that does. It's very honor rule based, but it's possible. When I say honor rules, what am I talking about? Well, with lessons, everything's locked and loaded in CloudRadial, and you'll see what this looks like when we talk about tracking. We have the user, we have the companies, we have all that stuff. What if I'm linking off to something like KnowBe4, which CloudRadial does not integrate with, or your own proprietary training, any kind of stuff like that? What do? You could use the external URL. So I'm going to go to just Google. Yes, I'm aware Google is not a training source, but let's try it out. So what is this doing? This is literally just turning this training course into a bookmark. It also needs one lesson to actually launch. So I just like to just do 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Why would you ever want to do this? Well, again, if you want to keep the experience consistent, right? You want to still push people towards university courses. You still want to be able to click that thing and link them because each one of these course, if you notice, has an ID and a special slug. You can do that, embed that into your own documentation or training or whatever have you. And then ultimately what happens is when they go in there, they enroll in it because it's a hyperlink to a training area. It's just going to link me to that area, right? Here's Google. That's cool from a UI perspective because you're like, hey, cool, everything's consistent. My clients know that they have to go to the same area to do the same stuff. Why is that potentially eh? Well, honor rules dictate that I don't know whether a user actually completed this course. So they have to literally click complete to complete it. Is that useless? Not necessarily, but most MSPs looking for more like compliance or really hardline stuff probably don't get a lot of use out of this, but it has its uses and it's good to know that it exists. More common is that if you have a third-party training system, then my personal opinion is probably just don't use the university courses if you're solely dedicated to that training system. We'll use KnowBe4 as an example, but it could be whatever. If you're using them, it's probably easier to explain to your clients that CloudRadial is more of like the linkage point, the intranet, the touch point between yourself and them. And I'm a bigger proponent of using the applications area to bookmark that stuff down, right? If you don't have that, again, that willingness or the patience or the need, frankly, to build the university courses, just having a link off here is totally acceptable. It ultimately, does the same thing because the category name and the URL. Um, that's it. The issue that a lot of our MSPs have ultimately is tracking and compliance. So we're going to talk about that in just a second because that is kind of the crux of how you prove the value and why you would even really want to do training. Because between me and you guys, just having a training library full of courses is cool, but it's not that useful. Um, Last bit, and then we'll get to that compliance part, is you could do ClipTraining courses directly in here. Which brings me to the part, don't do this because we're actually moving away from it. I mentioned that we work with Bigger Brains and ClipTraining, and they were they were designed to solve the exact problem I said. You don't have time, I don't have time, I don't know the content. Their job is to produce courses that make sense, are updated, are good, they're high quality, they don't embarrass you. Cool. So when you look at something like let's do one of these Bigger Brains ones, which you can tell because they literally have a brain. Let's say I do this one on AI prompts, right? Okay, cool. It's got a lot of obviously well thought out course subject. I enroll in it. It pulls it up. Let's see if it actually goes to the Bigger Brains course. It may or may not because I was fancy. It does. And here we go, right? You can see that we're basically just framing into their stuff and then going through, and they have a lot higher effort content than, obviously you could just pull together by guessing. So that's nice. But that brings up the issue of how do you maintain this stuff? If you're an existing CloudRadial client, you may have seen a little bit of a shift. Let me explain that. We have Bigger Brain stuff and ClipTraining stuff in here. We're actually moving away from this. We're trying to get people to access that training easier, and we're trying to make it easier on our partners to update that. If you get into the training game and you stick not just to the very basics like security training or whatever, inevitably you'll run into the issue where you want to keep these libraries up to date and make this kind of a routine thing, because if you can pull that off, people will come back to the portal and get a lot of value out of it. Bigger Brains, ClipTraining, they offer a bunch of courses, but when you put them in here today, they're kind of convoluted to keep adding courses to it, to keep updating the library. So what we're shifting to is a different approach where through those applications, we're basically just letting you sign directly into that system. So in my homepage, I've got like Bigger Brains courses. This is a different approach. Rather than go to university, we go directly into Bigger Brains' content library. You can take courses here, no problem. There's some handoff and authentication that's happening from CloudRadial to Bigger Brains. But the big takeaway to take from here is that you as the MSP do not have to contend with keeping up with courses or whatever, right? They get added, they show up here, users are happy and getting what they're paying for, and that looks nice. ClipTraining is the same thing. This probably won't work because of some authentication stuff I have to work through on myself and my test tenant, but we'll see. Let's see if this actually opens up. Yeah, probably not. That's okay. ClipTraining does the same thing. So what am I actually saying here? I'm saying that as we continue to evolve as a platform, we're aware that this is probably a better method, but what we want to do is we want to keep that training data in CloudRadial. Why? Because at the end of the day, somebody who is administering the portal, right, your point of contact or whomever, really wants to be able to see the status of training. There we go. That's what I was trying to bait my failure to connect. Really wants to track the compliance of it, because it's that compliance and that tracking that is more interesting to somebody who pays the bills than just, can you take training? Why is that? So yes, we have the university, and yes, we have the SSO stuff. We're working on opening our endpoint API, and we're working on opening our training API. That training API is specifically purpose-built to be able to ingest training data on students from any system. Why that's important is because once users go about their day and they take their training and you pump out new stuff, separate from this, under compliance and training, we are tracking the courses and we are also tracking the students. Where this becomes interesting from a client value perspective is when you start to say, hey, I get a lot of tickets from David about not knowing how to use Excel, or that he keeps getting phished or whatever have you, right? That sucks for you as the MSP to contend with that, but that starts to open up a shared relationship. So training is a pretty good way to say, hey, if you just used our training that we built for you, that would help out a lot. And also, if this guy's a noisy client, right, in NPS terms, if you do net promoter scores, he would be a detractor. He's somebody that causes troubles, he's issues, and you want to be able to prove it objectively to your client. This is how you do it, right? You're able to basically pull up the student profile and go, hey, this noisy guy who says that our support sucks and you have the biggest beef with hasn't taken a single thing that teaches him how to do any of the stuff that we talked about. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that this guy's a troublemaker because we haven't really enforced it. So it's more of this that gets the clients to perk their ears up and to really kind of invest in training, because providing training by itself, not super compelling. But when you get into this, this is triggered, by the way, by that little required checkbox we talked about before. This is how it starts to become something to discuss. Now, I'll take questions in a sec over any of this stuff because I see some stuff going off in the chat if you have anything, but if not, whatever. I'll close this section off by saying this is not the only way to visualize it. And that's, we'll spend the next couple minutes talking about how can you visualize that training and offer value in a way that is very clear. Sometimes people are fine with this. Sometimes this is still just too boring. It's just a grid of information. I'll pause for a sec. Crystal, any questions or anything? Or can I keep on rolling?
Not too many. One that we were looking at here is that can people send feedback to the on the training courses once they've completed it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me double check. You can actually do that in articles. I know it's irrelevant because you're asking about courses. There's a little spot at the bottom saying, was it helpful, yes or no? I don't think that exists in courses, but at the same time, it seems trivial not to add to it. So no, but I could probably add that pretty easily. Then we can track that too. Good question. Pretty easy too. Not bad. And that would show up. I'll tell you exactly how I would do it too. We have under partner and reports, that's actually the section where you can even see feedback. So that would probably go somewhere in here where we could eventually pull off like, yeah, so and so said this was a good article, useless article, good course, bad course, so on. Okay, so we're talking about, again, not just how to build a course, because for better or worse, that's not too bad, how to frame it in a way that makes sense to get people to actually use it, because we know that I don't really need to sell it to you guys because I don't need to sell anything to you. I'm just talking about how to build a course. But you do need client buy-in because what's the point of putting all this time and effort if they don't do it? That list is pretty good. The other thing you can do is the policies. So we had a webinar about policies a while ago that talked about how to use these, how to maximize the value out of them, and blah blah blah. If you haven't seen policies, played with them, all you need to know is that this is a quick way to show people that there's an issue with decision or productivity or security or whatever. When we get to, I don't know, let's do compliance, right? You can see that there is a course certification expiration for the user. And basically what that's saying is somebody is past due on their course certification. So like I said before, do you need to have courses expire? No. But what this ultimately does is training starts to become a part of the whole service delivery, right? Service delivery not being literally like help desk support. I mean, like what the MSP offers as a business to the client, because this becomes a discussion of like, look, if we can't keep this stuff up to date, we both have to commit to, making sure that we're taking a stance to be trained, be secure, be good employees, and you're offering something of value to them. This is literal, easy, understandable, and quickly acquirable proof that people are not doing what they're supposed to, which can easily become like a discussion point in a QBR or something, right? Again, when paired with other information, this becomes a lot more valuable. If you just look at training as a standalone, take it or leave it. When it starts to become a conversation that sits alongside your security assessment, or maybe you have, I don't know, let's do like your MFA information, it starts to matter, right? If you start to say, hey, look, that guy, wait a minute, David Falkenberg, our exchange administrator, doesn't have MFA and doesn't do a security training. Now you got a story, right? Now it's not just Dave is annoying and he should take a security course. Now it's become an issue where you say, this is something that we want to invest in as a company because you have risks. And the bigger the risk, the bigger the problem, right? So this is why the more you can kind of piece these things together and tell your story, the stronger it is. My personal way of doing it is not even through the policy, because the policy that we just looked at can tell you, of course, if users have courses that are out of what's the currency, I suppose we'd use like what a pilot would say. But when you go to create a policy, that would be under the user policy, and under the policies there, course certification expiration. There's not a space here to specifically say, yes, they're expired on their security course. This is basically like there are expired courses for these users. Take a look into them, which can be good for a glance, but it's not super specific. My preferred way, and this is how I see the partners that have made me feel like, wow, they're doing a really good job with it, are doing it through dashboards. So if you go down to account and dashboards, if you've ever played with these are pretty cool. There is a dashboard specifically for courses. So let's go and make a brand new dashboard on the fly real quick. And I'll show you how this can really tell that story very easily, right? So let's do a cybersecurity. Actually, I already had one of those. Let's just do a training one. Training. Again, this isn't a demo on dashboards. You can pick a logo and do stuff. It's cool. When we make a training dashboard, add a widget, and then in the widgets, you have a lot of different types of stuff you can do, but just stick to the course one. So this is never going to load because I haven't specified what course to track. But if I go back to my university, let's say I'm tracking my help desk habits. This is a pretty good one, right? Cool, I've got help desk habits as my course. I want to track how many people have done that. All right, we'll go back to our dashboards. I'll click on the three dots here and I'll do settings. And then for the title, I can call this, help desk habits or whatever have you. And then the course title is what triggers CloudRadial to know which course to match. And it's a string match, so it literally is the title of the course. What's going to happen here is once I refresh the page, it will look at who's done the course, who hasn't done the course, and it'll tell me really easily. hey, now that's something that I can understand, right? I don't have to look at that report. I don't have to look at a compliance policy. I know at a glance that strategically, most of the people in my company haven't even started. One of them is in progress and one of them has completed it. Even this, does it have that much value? It's like it starts to tell something, but the real winner is when you start pairing it with stuff. So I'll go to the cybersecurity dashboard. There's a lot of blanks here, but one of the things you can see is when you start to pair that alongside other stuff, kind of like what I talked about before, whether it's, M365 data or whatever have you, like I see that everyone has MFA off. I see that nobody took this cybersecurity course. I see that we're out of date on OS updates. Training becomes a really nice way to say, hey, this is pretty low effort. Do you want us to get you some security training? Do you want us to do this? Not just as a random upsell, but as an actual part of an initiative. That's how the most successful MSP partners are doing training in CloudRadial. Again, not here to tell you how to press add. I'm here to tell you this is the best way strategically to position training, to even discuss whether it's worth investing in on your side, right? A lot of MSPs want to offer training. Even if you go out and buy training, it doesn't add much value for clients if it's not telling the greater story, which something like this can do. Now, I'll tell you another anecdote because I think it's cool to end on, and then we'll have 15 minutes to discuss any questions not related to training or training, kind of whatever. The biggest and most successful use case out of training, believe it or not, is not from us. It's not from the dashboards, whatever. These are cool use cases. They're real. I'm not going to tell you every partner does it because most people do kind of whatever they want inside of CloudRadial. The biggest use case comes from when the clients themselves see value in training, because ideally what you want is to show your customers that there's a training portal they can get for free or maybe for a slight charge, whatever you want, in their IT portal. Why that's important is because if you can get the client to build their own training in your portal, then it becomes something that matters to them. If it becomes something that matters to them, that increases dramatically, or rather it lowers the chance that they'll churn and increases the retention rate of that client for you. And also, it's something that adds a lot more value to them. The specific example I have for you, I gave this one in the AM session as well, is my number one training provider. I can't say his name because I don't want to blow him up, but is one that doesn't do anything with security or 365 or any of that stuff. He works with shipping. Specifically, it's like logistics. He works with a bunch of construction workers. He does MSP work for them. He's built forklift OSHA training courses inside of the portal, sanctioned and collaborated with the client. They had spat. They didn't like each other. The seat prices went up. That client got pissed. You know the usual stuff, whatever. Well, it turns out, though, that that client had literally put in their company handbook as part of the process to go in the portal and take their OSHA training and take their forklift training and take whatever. All of a sudden, it was like, oh man, we really rely on it. So the training thing that seemed pretty simple turned out to be one of the linchpins of the relationship. And basically, he ended up running a training portal more than anything else. It's rare. I'm not going to lie and be like, this is the number one way everyone does it. No. But he's a really cool use case of you don't always need the stuff at 100%. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I would encourage you to go find out what an actual genuine standalone LMS costs and then realize like, oh, this is better than nothing. It's not as good as a real LMS, but at the same time, it's better than spending another several thousands of dollars a year, if not tens of thousands. Ask me how I know, because we have our own separate from this. The CloudRadial Academy is a lot more intensive, but this, I think, hits that nice mark where even if you were to offer this as a value add for your clients, it doesn't require an insane amount of training for them to get it set up. And also it's something that you can monitor the completion of that adds a lot more value for them. So hopefully that helps enumerate and explain a little bit of the value that training has for CloudRadial. And then again, if you have specific use cases, if you have specific questions or viability or whatever, that's where the account managers and stuff have basically mastery over this, and also for support. If you'd like to see something, we can always talk about how to actually get it in here. And again, we're working with that endpoint API and the training API to make sure that ultimately our goal as CloudRadial is not to try to develop some kind of partnership with every vendor, with every whatever training instance that we have. It's to be able to centralize that one reporting, because we believe that if we can get the dashboards to look good, we can get all the student counts to look good from all sources, then you have something really valuable. So the portal is valued both to you and your clients increases dramatically. But more on that when we actually have more on that. All right, Crystal. I think I'm done training everybody on training. Do we have any questions?
I think you did a great job because I we don't seem to have any questions tonight.
I'll take that. I'll take that just fine.
Or
Okay,
good morning, I guess I should say for our
that's
Australian.
true. Or good morning. And a lot of people they hit that thing where it's like, hey, can you make an Australian afternoon? I'm like, I don't stay up that late. I wish, but I can't. I'll try sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, look, if anyone does have questions or if anything comes up related to training or otherwise, you can always, like I said, account managers and support, respectively, account management success at cloudradial.com. Support is, guess what? Support at cloudradial.com. If you have stuff directly for me, you can always talk to me directly too. I love chit-chatting with everybody because at the end of the day, I'm my own version of some of those too. What am I, VP of product or something? Who knows? Ricky at cloudradial.com is your third option. Try it out sometime. We'll see how that goes for you. All right, Crystal. I think I can dismiss everybody and let everybody have a good 13 minutes head start on whatever else they're going about their day with. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. Closing thoughts, or are we all good to go? What do you think?
Um, let's see if we have any more questions. Um, Lyndon, if hang on one second, I can link it directly from the drink. Let me try that again, y'all. Our YouTube
There
link
you go.
for you guys. Because it is always all of our stuff is up there. We have all kinds of Ricky's training videos and things like that. If you have not checked it out yet. But yes, it is just CloudRadial YouTube. I will link it here for you guys though.
Sweet.
All right.
And then based on our previous tips and tricks, the AM session, some people, I don't know if it matters to the people on this call because it always depends. CloudRail's advanced a lot over time, right? We've had a lot of courses come and go. And what I think we're going to do is tomorrow, once the recordings get polished up, we'll put a thumbnail on them and so on and so forth. I'm going to release like a supplementary article like I did for our policies, tips and tricks. Can't remember if it was a month. I think it was last month or the month before. I forgot now. That'll have like the courses that are up to date. So if you feel like you're missing any, I think somebody earlier in the session, early AM session was missing a couple of these ones. No big deal. You can always spot check and add them yourself so you can make sure you have the latest content and get started with some good sample stuff. There we go. All right, guys. I wish you all a good day and I'll see you for the next one.